Right. Here we go. Fame at last.
Wow, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Did you enjoy that? That was Mr. Gouldstone. You might
Good
remember
afternoon.
Mr. Gouldstone because he is our woodwind teacher at school. Now we haven't seen him for a while because of COVID, but I've got a Zoom meeting with him this morning, and he is going to help me tell you a little bit about woodwind instruments. So you might have recognized the instrument that he was playing. Could you hold it up for us, Mr. Gouldstone? Okay, now I'm sure you all recognize that as a flute, and that's a member of the woodwind family. Now, Mr. Goldstone, it's not made of wood, is it? What's it made of?
No, the flute's made of metal, but actually originally the flute used to be made of wood.
So that's why it's called the
So
woodwind
I suppose
family.
that's why we put it in the woodwind category. Yes, nowadays they're made of metal, though you can get wooden flutes, but most of them are made of metal. Yeah.
So can you show us how you made a lovely sound there, playing a whole new world. Can you show us how you make that sound on a flute?
Okay, well, what you do is you have this bit at the top, which I hope you can see there.
Is that the
Okay.
mouthpiece?
This is the mouthpiece with what we call the blowhole. And basically, I put that on my bottom lip and I blow across the hole like this. And
So
that's
it's a
what I
bit
call the
like
whistle
blowing over a
sound.
bottle, isn't it, really? Blowing over a bottle. You
Exactly.
can practice with that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So when you learn to play the flute, that's the first thing you learn how to do. And then you basically put that bit back on the rest of the flute. And I'm blowing in the same way when I play notes like this. So that's how
Lovely.
you make it go.
And is that the highest pitched woodwind instrument, or is there anything higher than a flute?
There's an instrument called a piccolo, which is like a little baby flute, which is about less than half the length of a flute, and that plays an octave higher. So I think I'm right in saying the piccolo is the highest woodwind instrument.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So, what else can you play, Mr. Gouldstone? What other instruments have you got there? What else do you teach?
Well, I have got my clarinet here, which is this one.
Okay.
Okay. Now this one is actually made of wood, so it's properly in the woodwind family. To make a sound on the clarinet, you have at the top a mouthpiece, the bit that goes in your mouth, and clamped against that mouthpiece, you can probably see on the back, there's this piece of cane wood, a little bit like bamboo cane, that's cut into a special shape, and the end of it is very thin. And basically, when you attach that to the mouthpiece and blow past the end of it vibrates, and you can hear this sort of squeaky sound you can hear is the reed vibrating. Yeah.
That's quite a loud sound in my ear, I have to say.
Is it? Oh, sorry. I've got a good microphone. And then when you pop that on the clarinet and blow, you get the normal clarinet sound. So this is a clarinet.
Some of the children might remember when we watched Peter and the Wolf in year two, the clarinet features in that, doesn't it? As does the flute. Do you remember year four what animals they were? I think I'm right in saying the bird was the flute because it's very high
yeah.
pitched, and the cat is the clarinet. Now, I always remember that because cat starts with a C and ends with a T, and clarinet also starts with a C and ends with a T. So that helps me remember. Now you've got one reed on there. Can you give us a tune? Give us a tune, Mr. Goldstein. You'd think we'd planned it, wouldn't you? That was the cat from Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf. Now the clarinet's got one reed, so it's called a single
Yeah,
reed instrument. But there is an
that's right.
instrument, isn't there? Or there are some woodwind instruments that have double reeds. Now I know you haven't got any of them to show us, but can you tell us
Yeah.
anything about those instruments that have got double reeds?
Yeah, so you've got what's called the oboe, which looks perhaps a little bit like a clarinet. It's a little bit thinner and a little bit shorter. But at the top, instead of having a mouthpiece that goes in your mouth, essentially you have two reeds instead of one, and they're clamped together back to back. And you put both reeds in your mouth and you basically blow down the gap between the two reeds to make a sound.
So I guess that sound is caused by the vibration of those two reeds together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Cool.
Yeah, they're both vibrating.
Mm.
And then you've got the bassoon, which is much bigger and therefore obviously much lower. That has a similar setup. That also has two reeds, which you blow sort of down the middle of.
And that's a huge instrument, isn't it, the bassoon?
Yeah.
So I think
Mm.
it's quite a low sound. I'll put a picture of a bassoon and an oboe
Yeah.
up on
Yeah.
Teams so that your class 4 can have a little look at those
Yeah.
pictures. And I'll try and find a little YouTube video so you can watch of
Yeah.
the bassoon. But I've got a friend who plays the bassoon. He used to call it a bedpost because it's a massive, massive instrument
Yeah.
that you play with a
Yeah.
tube, don't you?
That's
So
right.
fantastic. So what else have you got there in the woodwind family, Mr. Gouldstone?
Wow. I have got my saxophone.
That's not made of wood.
No, I know it isn't. But this is where it gets a bit confusing, isn't it?
It is very
It,
confusing, isn't it?
it never was made of wood. It always has been made of metal. I guess the reason that the saxophone is in the woodwind family is because the mouthpiece at the top of it is a bit like a clarinet mouthpiece in
Yeah.
that you've
Yeah,
got a
because all
single reed.
brass instruments have got a very definite sort of mouthpiece, haven't we? We learnt about
Yeah.
brass instruments. Yeah.
So this is the same as a clarinet. You pop the mouthpiece in your mouth. You've got a reed, but it's just a bigger reed. Again, that's the reed vibrating. And again, when you put the mouthpiece on the instrument and blow, you get the saxophone
Oh,
sound.
I love the sound of a saxophone. Now, there's different sizes of saxophones, isn't there? What saxophone is that? What are you playing there?
Okay, this is an alto saxophone.
Okay.
So the four main sizes are going from the smallest one, the soprano.
And that's the highest pitch, isn't it?
That's the highest pitch. That looks a little bit like a clarinet, but made of metal. That's sort of straight. Then you've got going down the alto. You notice this one's sort of curved into a big U shape at the bottom. Then next down is called the tenor. So that's the same shape as an alto, but just bigger.
And which that'll be a lower sound.
Yeah. And then you've got one called the baritone, which is bigger still.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that sounds very exciting. Now, you class 4, you're going to have a couple of worksheets to do when you finish listening to this. So I think everything that you need to know is in your worksheet. Everything you need to know in your worksheet, you have been told by Mr. Gouldstone. So if you need to know anything, you can always rewind and listen to it again. But thank you ever so much for joining me this morning, Mr. Gouldstone. As you can see, I've got an orchestra behind me. I'm pretending I'm in a concert hall. I'm actually in my music room. But because technology is so good, and I don't know if you can see, can we see the woodwind players here? I'm just having a little look. I'm not sure I can.
Yeah, they'll be behind your head at the moment.
They're just behind me because they've got the strings here, haven't we? In the woodwind section, kind of sit in the middle, don't they? Because they're in front of the brass. Because as we found out when we learnt about brass instruments make an awful lot of noise. So they're in front of them so they can be heard. So there I am sitting in front of the Chicago Philharmonic Orchestra. If only. We're going to end this call with Mr. Gouldstone playing one of his instruments. I don't know which one he's going to play. What are you going to play for us, Mr. Gouldstone?
I'll play the clarinet, if I may.
You may. Got a swapping over.
I'm going to play this one with a little backing track.
Excellent.
Okay. And you'll hear the introduction and then I'll play. And Mrs. Dobson, I'll leave it to you to end. You just fade out or stop when you
I will just press the stop recording button. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Gouldstone. And well done, class 4. Hope you've enjoyed this video. A bit different, isn't it? And I look forward to seeing your worksheets handed in on your class notebook page on Teams very soon. So let's enjoy some music now.
Right, here we go.